we think about conversation as an interface, just like we think about a website as an interface. And so that conversation needs to be designed. Like someone needs to think through all of the words and the pathways and what happens if something goes wrong? How do you get someone back on track? We actually design out all of our conversations and think through, what is the optimal, most intuitive way to say this?
Well, welcome, man. It's
Thank you.
I think the last time I saw you was at a restaurant.
Yeah.
With a lot of wine and some good steak.
That was a lot of fun.
Before I begin, though, just because I feel like now I have to ask this. This is you, right? Like you're not an AI.
I'm not an AI. I promise. We're not there yet, but maybe one day.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll join a podcast. It'll be an avatar of me. That would be super helpful. I would love to send an avatar of me to work. Wouldn't that be cool? You just take a day off and it takes meetings for you.
There's versions of this that already happen without your face.
Right.
With just like the way that you think, the way that all your information. I do a bunch of that. We're going to talk about some of that today.
Cool.
But it's funny. Obviously, I was joking. Like I know it's you. I mean, I think it's you. I'm like 99% sure that this is you, not an AI avatar. But what do you think about the idea of actually knowing that you're talking to an AI or hearing from an AI or not?
Yeah, that's a super hot topic right now because as AI gets better and better and more human-like, we're really approaching that zone now where it's auditorily, it's hard to know if you're talking to an AI or a human. And we're even approaching the same thing for video too, where, we're not that far away from you joining a Zoom call and not even knowing if it's an AI or not. I personally believe that transparency is everything. And so like if it's a live interaction, you want to know if you're talking to an AI, and it's important to know if you're talking to an AI for sure.
So my thought here is like, I don't know about the ethical part of the transaction or the transparency piece. I know over time, there might be some regulations that happen from that, but I actually just think as an experience, it's a way better experience if you know it's an AI, whether it's voice or coming from an email. Like if I know right away, it can even be a joke and that's fine. Like, hey, I'm an AI and da-da-da-da. But if I know that, first of all, I might be more impressed because I'm like, oh, this is cool. You know this. And there's just some sort of level of intent that like feels better that like you're being honest with me. And then I know how to respond to you.
Exactly.
And if I don't know, if I'm like, I'm not sure if it's a person or not, then I'm kind of upset because I'm like, are you messing with me?
And you lose trust.
Yeah, you lose trust. And that like, I'd want to, like, I don't know how long that lasts, but I think it should be just sort of an evergreen thing that like, you let them know like, hey, I'm an AI. My name is da-da-da. Because even once they get to the place where it can be super conversational, at least and then you end that conversation like, man, that was awesome. And if you found out afterwards it wasn't AI, you're still gonna have that little bit of like, what the fuck, man? Like,
yeah, exactly. No, you're spot on.
We didn't talk about you, which obviously we will. But Alex you're the founder, CEO of Slang.
Correct.
Like I think there's at least over 1,000 restaurants that you guys help answer phones more effectively, among other things.
That's right.
I didn't realize that like it makes sense. Like 60% of all calls to restaurants are for reservations.
Right.
So this is why Slang is such a great service because it's such a low-hanging fruit thing to solve for that I'm sure not only is it sort of numerical enough, it's sort of almost like, binary enough where like you can just answer these things, but also the speed in which you can get back to somebody, I have to imagine is a huge part of the value because if I call somebody for a reservation and they have to get back to me, which happens basically every single time, and I want to book a party or whatever, a big, usually you're calling a restaurant because you have like more than a 6-stop because they don't always take those on reservations,
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we see, it's definitely true that groups tend to call, not just like this large parties, but even slightly larger. Like we see the average party size over the phone is at somewhere between 4 and 5 covers. And online, it's what we see is typically between 2 and 3 covers.
No, it makes total sense. And a lot of times, that's the rule when you go to book. It's like, oh, for parties or 7 or more, call the restaurant because they need to plan for that.
Right.
So basically, what that means is that these calls have a way higher ticket and opportunity than the ones that are booking online. And so when you can't get to the call, you're losing out.
Right.
So it's a huge. I mean, look, I think it's an amazing business. I love what you guys are building. We can talk more about it. But let's, I want to maybe just step back for a minute, just because I think a lot of people know about what Slang does, but your background is in data, and at Spotify, there was obviously a ton of stuff you must have learned there. I'm just super excited to hear some of these things. So I'm just going to dig into, and I don't know exactly everything that you did there, but if this question is not something that you did, you can just be honest.
Okay.
But did you learn a lot about human behavior and psychology and the decision-making process from your time at Spotify?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, there was so much stuff that we could learn from the data that we had, and just looking at when you listen to music, what types of music you listen to, where in the world you're listening to music. There's so many insights that we could glean from that, and it was really cool. So I mean, just thinking back to I didn't work on either of these things, but I was kind of tangentially involved and helped leverage the insights from a couple of these research projects. But there's 2 really cool things that I'll share. One was we did a research project and we looked at nostalgia. So could we figure out if people had a nostalgia window, meaning is there a window of time in your life where music sticks a little bit more? And we found that actually is true. So we found that for most people between the ages of 16 and 21, those are really formative years, and the music that you listen to during those years becomes music that you continue to revisit later in life. And so the other thing that we found...
Why is that? What was the reasoning behind that? It's so crazy because it makes sense. Most of what I love is things, from, 90s hip hop from high school.
I don't know exactly. I don't think we got to the bottom of it. We just found the correlation. I mean, we could guess, but I just think it's
think it's when your brain is developing.
I don't know. It could be a brain thing. It's if you think about those ages, it's probably when people start going out and social and exploring the world outside of home, and those might be just really formative experiences, and music is associated with, maybe it's the first time you start going to a bar or you start going to parties or whatever. You're in these environments for the first time when you're hearing music, or maybe it's a lot of those are teenage years when people are going through lots of emotions, and maybe you're making emotional connections with your favorite artists and binge listening to certain albums. Who knows? I think it could be a lot of things. But it's really cool to think about, just knowing that correlation is there. And the other thing that we found too was that if you look at folks later in life, 40s and beyond, we found differences between men and women. So men 40 and above tend to listen to way more music from their nostalgia period. So, which I don't know if this resonates with folks, but it might make sense. Maybe your dads or uncles, they maybe play the oldies more, pretty frequently, versus women at 40 and above tend to mix it up a little bit more. They listen to more current music, more pop. But on both sides, the nostalgia window was pretty similar. Yes,
it's so funny because it's so it's so true, and you think about it.
Yeah.
God, I want to know why that is.
Yeah, me too.
Why do you think it is?
I don't know. I mean, the gender breakdown. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I know, I'm in my 40s, and I get the most joy from listening to Outkast or really old, Mos Def or and that was from when I was in high school.
Yeah, I mean,
and my wife is listening to music I've never heard of because it's bands from today.
For sure. I honestly have no idea why that is. I mean, I think I don't know if it's radio stations people listen to, or just social circles.
Yeah.
Or
well, what did you do? What did you do? So once you from this insight that you gained about nostalgia, and then you know, people in their 40s, and how did you build product around that at Spotify?
Yeah, so with that insight in particular, we ended up building a new playlist called Time Capsule that was based on your age.
Yeah.
So, and based on your listening history. So we'd go back and try and pull songs that are within that nostalgia window that you're likely to want to listen to again. And so that was a really fun one.
I totally remember the time capsule thing.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I feel like Spotify has to figure out. So, and maybe this is just because we use the same account. Like you know, we have all the Alexas over my house, and so my kids, they know how to use Alexa now. They're like 4 or 6, and they're like, play. So they're always playing, like, you know, these kid songs, and my wife will be playing, you know, whatever she's playing. And so then I get my Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year, and like, your most listened to was Beyonce and Coco Melon, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I start getting music fed to me because of that.
Coco Melon, can't get away from it. It's so legendary. I mean, I don't know how it works anymore today. Or I don't know how it works today, but when I was there, we would try and strip out kids music and try and strip out Christmas music from the Wrapped. But it's hard. I think it's hard to do it like super accurately.
What was the genesis of, of Wrapped? It was such a genius idea. We do something like that now at Medes. Obviously, we just stole the idea. I think a lot of people stole the idea.
Oh yeah.
It's funny. There are rarely times when something happens that create an evergreen new, trend. I don't even want to call it a trend, because now it's just a thing. Every year, everybody puts out their Wrapped of the data of their platform. Spotify, unless I'm wrong, came up with it.
I think they did. And so I joined Spotify in 2016. I first started working there in 2016. And the Wrapped campaign was already a thing. So I'm not sure exactly how it got started, but I did work on that campaign 1 year in 2017, and it was a ton of fun. It was a crazy experience, and I learned a lot about how it works and how to do that type of, you know, marketing at scale, like data-driven insights.
What was the impact that it had on revenue for Spotify?
Great. I mean, it was the biggest campaign that we would do every year, and I'm sure it's still. I'm not sure, but I would guess that it still is the biggest campaign that they do every year. Big numbers. I mean, millions of subscribers. I don't know. I can't remember the exact, but it was definitely successful every single year.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back. We'll get back to Slang.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's a question for you, because I heard you talking about it. What is conversational design? There's a woman named Rebecca Evanhoe that works for you, and I heard her job, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? It makes sense for what you do, but maybe tell us, like, what is conversational design, and then how do you all use it in Slang to make what you make?
Yeah, it's a niche term, but it's growing. So conversation design, you know, just like there's visual design, like web design or designing the visual experience of a mobile app. You know, those designers are thinking about how it looks. Is it intuitive? Do all the buttons make sense? Are the words that we're using in every area, like, do they make sense? Are they self-explanatory? So like the experience and not just the visual aspect of it, but the actual experience side of it, and making sure that it's intuitive and pleasant, and, you know, in some cases even delightful. Like the designers are the ones thinking through that. And so when we're thinking about AI conversation experiences, we think about them we think about conversation as an interface, just like we think about a website as an interface. And so that conversation needs to be designed. Like someone needs to think through all of the words and the pathways, and what happens if something goes wrong? How do you get someone back on track? You know, so we actually design out all of our conversations and think through, you know, what is the optimal, most intuitive way to say this? How do we make it how do we make it friendly? How do we make it warm? Like, or whatever the goal is. Like there's a lot of thought to like the actual words that are being spoken, and then also the structure of the conversation. Like what can the system handle? What can it not? What are all of the different paths that that of conversation that you can go down? Do you want it to tell jokes or not? You know what I mean? Like there's so many of these decisions that you have to make that are actually design decisions. And this is a design domain that has existed for a few decades, but it's been very niche. And now with conversational AI becoming so much more common, it's growing as a field. But even today, there are very few people in the world that are experts in this stuff. Like, definitely less than 500 people in the world, maybe even less than 200 people in the world that are truly good at this stuff.
What are the skills that you need in order to become a conversational design expert?
So you need to be, it depends. Some of these people, they come from like linguistic backgrounds. Maybe they started out as writers. Maybe they studied linguistics in school. Some of them come from visual design backgrounds, because really what you need is you need to have strong command of the language, and you need to have a strong command of like and a strong attention to detail of language, and like because like even just like little words make a big difference. And then you need to think about it from the user experience perspective. So you have to understand, a lot of the standard like design principles that you would apply to visual design make sense with conversation design too, which is just, like, is this thing usable? Is this thing delightful? Like, what's the emotional experience? Like, there's so many, like, there are a lot of parallels, but a lot of it is also net new stuff.
Yeah.
And there's like lots of little things too, like, are you outside of the like the words and the pathways, there's like other design decisions that really matter. So like if you're talking to an AI, can you interrupt the AI or not? Like, do you let the AI finish its sentence before the user can talk back, or do you want the user to be able to talk over the AI interrupted? And that makes it even more complicated.
I find that for some reason with most like chat interface language models, you can't like you have to press a stop button or something. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, it's because if you get interrupted, it's just more likely to fail. So you can it might be more it might be more frustrating sometimes for folks to not be able to interrupt it, but when you do make it super easy to interrupt, it's just like easier for the system to go off the rails. And so I think that's why most folks opt not to allow
Is there
you
a
to
solve
interrupt
for that?
There's several ways you can solve it. Yeah, and the technical term in conversation design is called barge in, like you're barging into the conversation. And there's lots of different ways you can solve for it. In voice, one of the main risks with allowing the user to interrupt the system is like background noise. So like if you're at a bar and you're like trying to make a reservation using our system, like we're going to pick up a lot of background noise. And so the AI might think that a background noise is you trying to talk to it. And so it's going to like keep pausing to let you speak if it picks up that background noise. So you can go really crazy with like noise cancellation and speaker isolation and like all that stuff. So there's definitely technical ways to solve it, but it's still a challenging problem.
Yeah. I remember listening to Mark Zuckerberg talk about the Meta glasses and sort of how to make it feel more real when you use virtual reality, and the notion that the hands were really important. Arms actually didn't matter so much, and so they didn't actually design arms, but the hands and the fingers were really important to see.
Right.
Is there any sort of anything analogous there with voice in terms of like things that you saw, interesting insights about how there's authenticity with the sound or the feel of the voice? Like what makes something feel authentic when you're when you're speaking?
Yeah. Oh, this is a great question. So I think for voice, in my opinion, the most important thing is the inflection of the voice and the cadence. Like, does it sound natural? Does it sound like I'm talking to a real human? Are they enunciating the words the way that a human would? And if that is not there, it becomes very distracting and it feels robotic. I think like a lot of people get caught up in like does the voice sound like a robot or does it sound like a human? Really, I think the most important thing there is like, is the inflection and cadence like natural? So that's the most important thing to me.
So just not having a monotone speech.
And like just pronouncing words like a native speaker of English. And
that is such a hard. I live in a town called Croton on Hudson, and we've tried to fix correct Alexa 100 times, but every time she says Croton on Hudson.
Yes,
and that sounds like, I guess that's just a difficult challenge to solve for.
Yeah, it's difficult. But we're definitely getting there now, where it's like we're in like good shape, and as technology continues to evolve, like I don't think that I think we're within like a year or 2 years of these systems being completely indistinguishable from humans. And then there's the actual like sonic quality of the voice. So we're talking about like the way that it actually sounds, to the ear. Like, does it sound like a robot, like tonally, or does it sound like a human, right? And I think that's actually separate from the inflection, right? Like you could think of like a cartoon voice, right? Like a cartoon voice could sound natural, but it's a cartoon, right? So I think the most important thing is that the cadence and the inflection sounds natural, but then from there you can start to think about the sonic side of things. So like what does the voice itself actually sound like? Is it breathy? Is it not? Does it sound like a news anchor? Is it or not like or a regular person? Is it like high energy, low energy?
What are some of the things that make a human voice sound human versus robotic?
That's a hard one. I think that's kind of like an intangible quality. It's like, just does it sound like I think I'm sure that there's like an audio footprint you could analyze, and like there's like a scientific element to it, but I think it's more of like a gut intuitive feeling that we have, which is like, to the ear, does it sound like a human is talking, or does it sound like a non-human? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So think about like, I don't know, like in movies, there's like alien voices, right? Like it's like like you could probably, like if you heard a clip of an alien speaking English from a movie, like it's an alien. You know what I mean? Versus a human talking.
Yeah. I just so curious with those. Someone much smarter than me must know like what are those qualities? Because I imagine you have to program the thing with those specific qualities in order to have it sound more and more like a human. I have to imagine there's something with the esophagus and the way the sort of things vibrate in our throat before they come out of our mouth that
totally,
and then just our however we're thinking before as we're speaking. But it seems like a really hard problem to solve. It does sound like I've seen some AI that sounds pretty damn real,
right?
Like there must be something there, unless they're actually just recording and emulating the exact voice of somebody else.
Well, that's how many of these models are trained. They're actually trained on actual human audio, like actual spoken word audio. And so that is how like the many of these foundational models are built.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's obviously so many details of how this works, but what do you think are like the biggest misconceptions that dumb people like me have about voice AI and what we perceive it to be versus what it actually is?
That's a good one, and I definitely beg to differ that you're a dumb person, but I doubt it. But in terms of let's talk about that. So, what's a common misconception? I think when people think of an automated voice experience, the first thing that most folks think about is like that horrible call center bot that you get when you call an airline, right, or a bank or whatever. And a lot of folks think that is still where we're at in terms of technology, but we're in a completely new wave where AI can actually be effective. It can be good. It can be fast. It can be fun even. And the technology just keeps getting better and better every day. So I think the common misconception is that AI is often a negative experience, right? If it's an automated experience. I think that's a misconception because we're at least at Slang, we're proving that that's not true. Every single day we work with, as you mentioned, Josh, over 1,000 restaurants across the US and Canada, and we have extremely high guest satisfaction, which means that the guests that are interacting with our AI are actually finding it useful, helpful, and we hope even delightful. Like, we have some guests say that they're surprised or they thank the AI. They're like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. You were amazing." And like, we didn't expect that to happen. Actually, we didn't think, we love seeing that, but that actually wasn't our expectation. But what we found is that if one, the technology's just gotten better, and two, people are starting to trust the technology more and finding it and using it successfully. And then three, if you design it well, that's why conversation design is important, and that's why being thoughtful about what you're having the AI do, and being thoughtful about what maybe even more importantly, you're being thoughtful about what you don't want to have the AI do. If you're thoughtful about those things, you actually can deliver something that is a good experience. And I would say right now, we can deliver very good experiences. And in the future, as AI gets better and better, AI is going to be like blowing our socks off. It's going to be doing things that we would never expect humans to do, right? Like having a super deep understanding of who you are as a person, your history with the restaurant, delivering a level of personalization and convenience that we've never even seen before. And so I'm super excited about that. And I think AI and many and the whole technology landscape in the hospitality space that's continuing to evolve. I think all these tools are going to help operators do what they love to do, which is deliver amazing service in person and leave a lot of this, a lot of these like customer communication, guest communications tasks that frankly many restaurants struggle to do well. I think AI is gonna help and do a lot of it, and it's gonna be win-win. It's gonna be win for the guests and win for the restaurant.
100%. I mean, and I think the most important thing is just building trust. And what I'm not saying this just because you're on the show, but what Slang is, and companies like Slang are doing, are a big part of what we need to get to the next level. Right? Is the most important thing is to solve the problem. If you're solving a problem for somebody, they're going to trust it, right? If like, hey, I need a reservation and I couldn't get it on the computer, I called and this thing helped me get a reservation, then the customer is going to be like, well, that fucking worked. That's great. And the restaurant's going to be like, well, hell yeah, that worked. So who cares whether it was AI or my uncle?
Right.
The problem got solved, and then that becomes more normalized over time. And the more we can do that, the better. I am curious. I want to talk about like sort of some of the future of AI, but there might not be any of these, but is there any like crazy way in which people have interacted with Slang where you're like, where did that conversation come from? And then you're either the AI like totally bonked out, or just really unexpected conversations.
We've seen some guests like realize that it's an AI and like try and flirt with it. We've seen, which is funny. Nothing too explicit. We've seen folks try and like ask, like joke around with it. And as I mentioned, we also see folks like try and sorry. Hey,
that's all right.
I've got this just got a puppy.
Oh, nice.
She's
what kind of dog is that?
Here. She's Bernedoodle.
Oh my
she's
goodness.
Like, she's been sitting here and now is
she could be part of the show.
She's getting a little.
She's not AI, right? She's real.
She's not AI. Some people say she looks like AI though, in her photos. So I mean, we've seen some crazy stuff. Yeah, it's really fun to see that stuff. But I think overall, what we're seeing is that folks will say things like, "Oh, is this ChatGPT? Like, what is this?" Because guests are they're getting familiar with AI and they're trusting it more and giving it a try, which we love to see.
Yeah. Okay, so now I just will ask, and this is probably everybody's asking this all the time, but you are working in AI all the time. You're thinking about this all the time. And maybe we can either just stick to the vertical of voice AI, but you feel free to expound on it. In 10 years, what does this look like? What does Slang look like in 10 years as the technology curve keeps getting deeper and deeper? Like what does 10 years from now look like?
Yeah, I think voice AI is definitely going to continue to grow as a category. There's so many companies working on this problem and lots of great stuff happening. Like, in many verticals, healthcare, financial services, even outside of hospitality, that's really exciting. I think the technology is going to continue to get more and more human-like. I think we're going to um, we're going to reach levels of personalization that we haven't seen before. And so what I mean by that is, like, let's say you call a restaurant to make a reservation today. If a host even answers, you're going to be treated somewhat generically. They'll book a reservation for you. But it's not going to be like a tailored experience. Like, you don't have a relationship with that host. They don't know you. But in the future, we imagine AI becoming like almost like it's like you're talking to the same person every time, right? And it knows you and gets to know you better. And so when you reach out to make a reservation, it already knows what table type you like. It already knows, what time you like to eat dinner. Are you a 6:30 person, or are you an 8:30 person? It knows when your birthday is. It knows if you have a spouse. It knows like all these things about you, and it can bring that information into the conversation in a way that makes you feel seen and heard, but ultimately makes that interaction more convenient and faster for you, which people obviously love. Everyone, time's our most precious resource. So I think personalization is going to be a thing. And then I also think as the technology gets better, and this is where we're going as a business at Slang, is, we're interested in just having the AI take on more and more and more of the guest lifecycle for you as a business. So how do we, which ultimately delivers more value to operators and guests, because there's so many things that today are broken. Just think about the experience of private dining, right? I booked a private dining reservation, like a 10-person thing for my birthday a few months ago. I live in New York, right? So reached out to 6 restaurants. Only 2 of them emailed me back. And the 2 that emailed me back, it took me like 3 days of back and forth to actually figure out like what menus they have and like pick one, and like make a decision. Like, I was like, there's gotta be a better way, right? So like, I think there's lots of ways where AI can speed up that workflow, that back and forth. And I think that there's so many use cases like that. So that's what I mean when I talk about like getting into more areas of the life cycle outside of reservations, where we can just like help create efficiencies, and find win-win opportunities for operators and for guests.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Is there a time when this AI gets just completely agentic for Slang?
When you think about the difference between agentic AI and like more traditional, let's call it conversational AI, I think about the distinction being agentic AI is something that can actually achieve a task or a workflow for you from end to end.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if it needs to log in to other systems and, do API connections or whatever to like actually take care of something for you from end to end, that to me is kind of like one of the key distinctions between agentic AI and other types of AI. And certainly, yes, I would say our product is already there. We handle many things from end to end. There are some things that I think will, over time, we're just going to be doing more and more of agentically. So for example, I already mentioned private dining, but like, let's talk about like catering, right? So a catering order is more complicated than a reservation, right? There's so many like questions and things that need to be sorted out. You might need to, there might need to be several, there are several subtasks. For example, let's say like let's say, your restaurant and you want to facilitate a catering order. It's not just about like making the catering order. If the catering job required like someone to go deliver the food and like set it up, right? Like one example could be like, okay, well, like they're going to an office building, they need to like get security, they need clearance, right, to like go upstairs and like deliver the food, right? That's maybe something that an agent could do for you, right? Like you could have the agent like coordinate with the client or like reach out to the building security or whatever. Like, so in that instance, the agent is kind of like the connective tissue between the restaurant, the guests, and like the operational tasks that need to get done. So I definitely think like that's the future.
Yeah. Are you guys using any sort of MCP to connect with the customers' other systems today, or?
Yeah, so right now we do integrations and through partnerships with with the leading folks in the restaurant space, and we're always adding more. So our approach has been to partner directly with the best in class vendors in each category, and be able to kind of be the connective tissue between voice and these different systems.
Yeah.
So one of those examples is our OpenTable integration. So we launched an integration with OpenTable in September, and we learned recently that we've actually become their top integration that they've launched over the past 12 months, which we're really excited about.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, super excited about that.
And so basically the customer, when they're talking to a Slang AI rep, I'll call them, they can actually book a reservation via OpenTable from the call?
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. So if a guest calls a restaurant that's on OpenTable, the AI can pull the availability. It can book a reservation. It can modify or cancel a reservation. And it can even add special notes. So if the guest is celebrating something, or if they have dietary restrictions and they want the restaurant to know about that so they can have a better experience when they're there in the four walls of the restaurant, the AI can handle that. So it's performing extremely well. We're booking like anywhere between 50 and 500 reservations per month per location.
Wow.
And
that's
we've
crazy.
we've already booked since September. We've booked like 250,000 reservations for our restaurant partners. So
dude, that's nuts, man. Congratulations. I remember you talking about this integration or the partnership a while ago, and seeing it sort of come to fruition is pretty amazing.
Yeah, we're pumped.
This is a tough question. Like, did you have to pick a lane? I think we might have talked about this in terms of like OpenTable, Resi, like.
Yeah, it's definitely
is it exclusive, or?
Our partnership with OpenTable is not exclusive, but we're in super deep partnership with them. They've been amazing to work with, and obviously there's many players in the market, but OpenTable is the OG. They're the leaders, and and what they've done on the product side just over the past few years has been very impressive. And
I feel like they've made a big comeback, like as a brand as well, with new leadership, just doing a really good job of becoming part of the community again.
For sure. I mean, there was just an article that came out a few weeks ago, maybe it was in February actually, so it was more than a few weeks ago. But it was I think it was New York Magazine. They were highlighting how OpenTable just won back Don Angie from Resi, and it was a super big deal.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that. Yeah. So, I'm curious, and maybe you're not using it all, but are there ways that you're using AI for yourself today, independent of using ChatGPT to ask questions?
Well, yes. I mean, we use AI for a lot of things internally. I mean, yeah, we use AI on the sales side to like analyze calls and do account research and all sorts of stuff. But I mean, in my personal workflow, I am, I'm just obsessed with ChatGPT. I use it like 50 times a day, at least. My partner jokes that I'm like in a open relationship with ChatGPT because like I'm using it so much, and it has so much of my time and attention. But I just love it. And I mean, for me, what I've been using it for recently is I use it for email. Obviously, I use it for researching.
I mean, just like refining emails that you're gonna write, or
what I'll do is like I'll actually just like talk to it. So I use the mobile app. They also have a good iPad app and desktop app, and I'll just talk to it. I'll be like, hey, draft this email for me, and I'll just like dump stream of conscious to it, and it'll structure it, and it's like learned my style of writing. So like I don't have to edit it at all. So that saves me a ton of time. I'll use it for I love use. So I actually started paying for the ChatGPT Pro subscription, and I use deep research for a lot of stuff.
Me too.
Yeah, so useful. I mean, you could do it for anything. I haven't seen this person in a while and I want to like get them a gift. Like, what do I like come up with some ideas? Or I'm about to meet with this brand, like tell me their story. I don't know, like even for personal stuff, like I'm going to Mexico City, like help me create an itinerary. What restaurants do I need to hit? Like it's so good at those things. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. And it's been a lot of fun to kind of push the boundaries of what it can do.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I'm using it for so much. I mean, I have ChatGPT, Grok, and Gemini. I kind of like use them for different things, but I've also been like using a lot of these MCPs. Like I use this this tool called Lindy.
Okay, cool. I haven't messed with that yet.
I just create agents, and you can give it all these skills, and it's all. So there's an agent that I have that has my calendar plus a database that I have of basically every contact that I have, all of my contacts, their birthdays, their anniversaries, if my employees, when's their work anniversary, when's their birthday. And, it does everything from any meeting that I have, it's there at the meeting, other than these, because I feel like it's invasive. And it creates action items for me, it creates reminders, it updates my coda with tasks that I need. It will set new calendar invites. It's agentic, so it can also just like start to like ask people to set other meetings. Whoa. And then it reminds me every week, hey, tomorrow is Alex's birthday. Here's some information on Alex. The last time you guys met this, do you want to send a gift card? And then I also have it connected to these. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but I can have it send a gift card for me. I can have it send. I can tell it what I want to say. And so I'm getting reminders. Hey, next week is your mom's wedding anniversary. And so I get an email every week with like, here's the upcoming like important dates. And then I can kind of like text it things and say, hey, remind me, like add this important date. But it does the same thing with, I have so many of them, so many of these workflows. I
need to check this out.
It does all my email triage too, by the way. Like I never touch my email anymore because I just programmed it. And I said, if it comes from, here's my investors, my internal investors. If it comes from one of them, put it here. And if it requires a response, draft one, ask for approval. If it comes from my family, it's here. If it's from school, from here. And it does it all for me. So there's only like 4 emails a week that I ever even really need to address. And it's because it's also like an agent. If I bring it into an email for calendar, like I'll just be like, hey, Lindy, can you find us some time? And it knows my calendar. I give it parameters of what it can override, and it just does it all for me. And there's so many things like this. It's just crazy the amount of. I connected this tool called Replit, which is so you can build your own applications. It's wild, dude. It is wild what you can do now, and there's the amount of like productivity you can have with one person is just insane. And every week I get like a little bit more excited. Like, I can't believe how much.
I love it. The technology, it just keeps getting better and better. It seems like every day. So it's wild times we're living in. But I'm gonna check Lindy out. That email triage use case seems super.
Oh, it's
valuable.
dope, and you can connect to like almost any application you can think of.
Wow.
Zapier has a similar MCP, and obviously has way more integrations. But it's a little bit more. Like you have to use Cursor to build it all. So you have to have a little bit of an understanding of code to use that. But Lindy is way more
like no code.
Yeah, like no code. You just explain what you want. You have to be very explicit. That's the thing I learned with any sort of AI that I find super interesting in terms of. It's funny, we deal with recipes, and recipes can be implicit or explicit, and it's very easy for someone to screw something up, and most of the time it's your fault because you didn't explain well enough.
Right.
And these AI agents or these prompts that you want to give it, you realize how clear you have to be. And if you're not clear, obviously I love that it's iterative. So when you're not clear and something messes up, you're like, oh, got it. I got to be more clear about this. I have to clarify this. I have to add this exception. And over time it gets better. But the importance of how clear you have to be with instructions. And we think about like our assistant or a team member, and then you give them an instruction that's not super clear and expect result X and you get Y. And it's actually helped me realize like, oh, I need to be way better at the instructions that I give my team. Because it's the same as when you think about what you're going to explain to an AI. You have to give it context. You have to give the reasons why. You have to, help it understand what skill sets you want. So it's pretty cool.
Yes. I'm going to nerd out on it this weekend. I can already tell. Thanks for the tip.
What are you most excited about next for Slang?
I mean, we're at a fun time in our business where we've kind of got critical, scale. We've got over 1,000 restaurants. We're speeding up. Through that, we now have I'm excited to leverage all the data we have and the scale we have to partner even more closely with our restaurant clients and become even more of a consultant partner to them, like using all the data we have, right? Because we know, we're probably working with someone else in your neighborhood now. We can bring you benchmark data. We can bring you best practices. We're already starting to do this stuff, but I think that's a really exciting evolution of our business now, because we're still in, the early days. It still feels like day zero in many ways, but we do have a lot of data and a lot of relationships that just make our value that we bring to the table even bigger. And so that's been top of my mind recently. So I'm excited about that.
It's awesome. Well, congrats, man. It's amazing what you built. And obviously you're just getting started. And it's been cool to see from the sidelines what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Thanks for being a champion and friend throughout it. So I appreciate you having me on, and this was fun.
Absolutely, man.